Netflix stock is stumbling. They had their worst day in over a decade. But actually, unless you had your money in Netflix, this is actually some great news for 99.9% of people. Here's the thing. Netflix didn't understand the future of media. And the future of media is based on decentralization. And it's actually not so complicated for you to understand. I think YouTube, with all its mistakes, truly understood what the future of entertainment, of media, will look like. Meaning, you're not paying to watch me. I'm not a huge studio. I'm actually just a guy with some opinions that would like to share some information with you. On Netflix, you would never find an individual creator or a smaller studio that is, doing some content that's actually quite unique. That's actually bringing a worldview that is the one that you share a certain feeling of belonging. YouTube understood that they would go nowhere if they invested all their money, all their efforts on big productions trying to compete with both Hollywood, but also Netflix, Amazon, HBO, and so on and so forth. Rather, they actually gave up on YouTube Originals a couple of months ago. And now they're focusing on actually building a better algorithm, on empowering certain creators. And that's truly why I think they're going to get the future. But insofar as Netflix is concerned, they were betting that the future is going to be centralized, meaning some huge companies making movies, directing the consumption of content, but rather, as you may know, people are not putting their money, they're not putting their attention, and that's really important, only in these huge productions. Rather, a lot of people are donating money to Twitch streamers, to YouTubers. They're purchasing sometimes merch, sometimes courses, books from YouTubers, from individual creators, from smaller companies. And that's what Netflix and other companies really didn't figure out. They thought that by being one of the first to get into that kind of business, it would be enough to take a huge chunk of the market, but that, as we know now, it was not enough. Not only that, Netflix got a little bit arrogant with time. They just chose to focus on certain narratives, on certain audiences, and actually ignore the complaints of several customers. Before we get into that, I want to make sure that I'm not getting into politics. As you may know from other videos, I really don't care about that. I think it's something that doesn't bring anything to my life. But we must acknowledge that Netflix tries constantly to bring a narrative, an ideological manifestation that some will call woke capitalism, wokeness. I don't care about the term itself. They bring one ideological framework to most of their movies. And as a consequence, the people that don't enjoy these kinds of narratives, that have different opinions, they're not going to like it. They cancel their memberships. I'm going to give one big example of that. Do you remember that movie called The Cuties? Some people thought it was harmless, but many others were extremely angry. They thought that Netflix should actually remove that movie from their catalog, or at least come up with an excuse, with a public statement, but Netflix really didn't do much. So Netflix actually lost many subscribers because of that controversy. So it's not just the only situation. It looks like Netflix is really focused on one single narrative, one specific audience that enjoys these kinds of movies, these kinds of plots. But many others in the entire population, they don't actually enjoy these kinds of things. They actually think that it's an exaggeration. They actually just want to have fun. They want to, see some light comedy. They may want to cry a little bit. But when the movie itself is just a regurgitation of certain ideological movements, people will start thinking, you know what, this is a little bit too much. I don't like that. And here is the best part about Netflix losing its relevance: creativity. Maybe it's just my opinion, but many of the movies I encountered on Netflix and even some other streaming platforms, they were extremely repetitive. They lacked in creativity. They were not unique. Of course, there are exceptions that we can all think of, but it's so frustrating. It looks like some of these movies are being written by an AI, by a robot, or at least the directors are just copying and pasting many of the same themes, the same kinds of characters, emotions, all these experiences that, in my opinion, are becoming extremely repetitive. I think that's the worst part. And precisely why I think YouTube, Twitch, and many of these platforms, they're going to take over the future. Precisely because they give opportunities to individual creators that are risking a lot more in terms of creating art, creating movies, TV shows, content itself. Now, Netflix almost streamlined its production structure. So that's why I think that if we walk towards a future without the relevance of Netflix, maybe even Amazon Prime, HBO, and even Disney, of course, that's going to be difficult. I think the attention of people, their money, their effort to buy certain products and so forth, it's going to be directed towards people that are truly creative, that are truly trying to bring new things, unique videos, unique movies. And that's what's so beautiful about it. So I'm happy about Netflix going down, and I hope many other streaming platforms will go through the same thing, because I want individual creators to have the opportunity to spread their voices. And I think I'm not the only one. People want that kind of thing. They don't want just to watch a movie. They want to feel that connection. They want to find content that resonates with their opinions, with their cosmovision, the way they perceive the world, the way they perceive people, their values, their principles. And so I think it's inevitable. I think it's inevitable that individual creators as a group will pretty much take over and bring much less dominance to Hollywood, Netflix, and many of these other studios. But in any case, make sure to subscribe, and I see you in the next video.